Oh man, but like, it's such a fucking egotistical game. I hate it.
Really?
Yeah, I was good at it, but I did not like it. Which was interesting. And I'm happy to get out of it. I won't give too much away, but that's why I went into the gym, because it's just like, it was like one of those like forks in the road, you know?
Yeah, so you just started to be like, do I really want to continue to try and flog off a bunch of houses? Like, so how did you get into the housing side of things?
Well, I started in residential, and like I just started as a fucking assistant to an agent because I had no experience. And then I did that for a few years, and that's like 6-7 days a week. It's a pretty rough gig, and you're not getting paid that well either. And then I transitioned to commercial, and it was the same sort of thing. I just started like with an entry level role and worked my way up, and the progression was pretty quick, but fuck man, it's like, I don't know. You can probably relate in a sense because you make your money off your clients, right, and how many you see and all that sort of thing. But it's one of those, like, it's a performance industry, and it's fucking, every month it's like wipe the board and you got to go again, and it's so fucking, it's brutal.
Head down, you're just like, fuck. Like, even if you have a good month or a good quarter, you just got to do it all over again.
Yeah. And it's very, there's some funny personalities that get around. It's very like, I feel it's like finance or something. It's very cliquey.
You'd have to be. It seems
terrible.
It's
not for me.
The number of reality TV shows about realtors or whatever you called, like, there's a reason for it. Like, it's a funny industry to be in. You got to be a little bit cutthroat. You got to be a little bit quirky, and yeah,
they're a good watch though.
Oh, it's a great watch.
Don't you love to see those houses? You're like, fuck.
You do. What's the is it Sunset?
The American one, yeah.
Sunset. Is it Boulevard?
Yeah, I think so. I've seen that one with the two bald-headed dudes, is it?
Yeah. And
selling Sunset.
That's it. And every chick in there just has the biggest kahunas.
Oh, bro, it's crazy.
And the kits, like the whole thing, I've told this to a bunch because I was watching it with my brother's girlfriend. She was like, oh yeah. And I was like, go for it. You're going to enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
You know it's a guilty, like, all right, this is a bit of fun. But all of them are stunning. But it was the black girl in particular. Her outfits every time. I was like,
oh, bro.
She's a fashion. Her whole thing is like a runway piece.
Yeah.
I was actually impressed by like the craziness of her fits. I was like, oh wow.
I know. It's crazy. You know what the fucking, like, the craziest thing is that when you get to that level, like when you're selling those prestige properties, like they really sell themselves, and the money in them is so fucking big. It's like you're making, a couple $100,000 commission, but like you're selling a lot of the time a highly desirable property. I find it fascinating, because like, you see people that were like the Mac Halls and the Porteouses and all these guys that like they've been in the game for so long, and it's hard, but then after that like 20-30 years of service, they're literally just printing money.
That's the thing. It's like anything. It's if you can stay in the game long enough.
Yeah.
Like anything, that first section of trying to get things going is a nightmare.
Yeah, man.
It's just an absolute beast. Doesn't matter what you're doing. It's just so hard to be successful quickly, but you stay in any game long enough, you've got a good chance of reaching some level of success.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. We're not at that age yet where you can look back and be like, yeah, man, it's just hard work. Eventually you get there. Right? You're like, I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think so. That's like, it's the same with you and what you do. And I suppose like through every interaction or like training session, whatever it is, you get better.
You would, again, as you say, you fucking do hope so, right? If you don't get better, you just be like, God damn, what am I doing this for? So you started to do the selling, I guess. You got into that, and then what was the whole time you kind of thinking, this is not for me? Or what was the sort of shift away from, what sort of caused that little shift away?
I think, it's a very tedious process, and it's a very, very much like an emotional roller coaster, because it's so up and down. There's no consistency in it. And I think eventually that just wore me out. Like
if I'm a potential client, are you like whining and dining me? Or what's the actual, because now that I think about it, I'm like,
Yeah, it depends. Like residential is much more like on the ground running, and like you just fucking doing, cold calling people and follow-ups and like trying to provide a service even if there isn't one there, like just taking the initiative, letterbox dropping, door knocking, trying to find any excuse. Like one thing that I used to do, for example, is like the name of the game would be to get listings, right? And being like a young agent, I wouldn't have many listings, or it'd be hard against like established competition. So I used to like leverage off, if someone had just listed a house, say on your street, or just sold a house on your street, like I'd leverage off someone else's work, and then I'd like, before the sign had already gone up, the sold sign, or the first day that the for sale sign's up, I would have like dropped something under everyone's door on that street. And then like I'd use that as a means to go back and speak to them again. And 9 times out of 10, no one wants to talk to you. But like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, did you get my letter? And they're like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's just that like, yeah, repetition. And I think to answer your question, yeah, eventually I just burnt out because it's like, it's long hours, it's thankless. And then, say for example, you do get a sale or you get that commission. That might be your only one for 3 months. So you might be like, oh, I've just made a good little check. But then
it'll last you.
Yeah, comparatively, like, is it? Because I might not make another one for 6 months.
Yeah, true. That is a tough game. How many people was the churn rate must be high? There must be
crazy. I think, yeah, especially in residential, everyone, I think people see it as like an easy means to make money.
Yeah,
like anyone can sell a house, right? It's not that hard. You could sell one, like anyone can sell one, but yeah, I think the lure initially is there because people see it as like an easy means to make money and the lifestyle looks good. But yeah, the churn is crazy, man. And then I moved to commercial, and it's.
Did you move to commercial for any particular reason?
Yeah, I think initially it just appealed to me because they had like more secure salaries and you wouldn't work weekends, for example.
Oof.
Which is a big one, so that was appealing. And then, yeah, similar. It's a very cutthroat industry, but it's all just about, like we said before, putting in the time, and like that's all it is, just being consistent and providing a service, even if there's nothing there, like the follow-up calls and the random emails and stuff. But it's one of those games you got to be on like 24/7.
And be, obviously get very comfortable with rejection very quickly.
Yeah, that was a good one because like I am naturally quite a shy person, and like I always struggled with like public speaking, even before we jumped on here. Like, I got a little bit nervous, still am. But yeah, it is good for that. It is good for that because after X amount, you realise that it's kind of, water off a duck's back.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, and
do you remember your cold call, like what you would say, or cold knock or whatever? Did you have a script for that, or were you sort of on the fly?
You know what? Yeah, so like I think I'd had a number of sales jobs before that. My first ever one was like as a membership consultant at a gym, and that's a hard sell. That's not.
You're that guy.
Yeah, that sucked. That really sucked. But it started there, and then I actually moved into solar. I had I ended up having a solar business for about 4 or 5 years with my brother. But with the sales stuff, yeah, like I went to so many seminars and courses, and like everyone's got their own method to the madness, and I followed scripts, and they're very interesting because there's like the psychology behind them as well, like assumptive closes and like little things you do. For example, like one of the things I got taught when I was doing like cold sales was, you come in empty-handed, like you don't come in with your briefcase and stuff because that can be quite overwhelming to some people. So you build the rapport, and then after like 10, 15, 20 minutes, you kind of drop some like little insinuations, and then once that rapport is built and they're more comfortable around you, you say to them, well, I'm just going to go out to the car and grab my bag. And then like that in itself, if they agree to that, then essentially, you know that they're going to be, they know what's coming.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if they're like, don't worry about it, like,
we
got to go, actually, I got to go get the kids, like, then it's...
Deals off anyway.
But yeah, through trial and error, like, I did try a lot of that stuff, and I didn't have too much success with it because I felt like it wasn't authentic, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually my brother actually, who is a very good salesman, he just said, you just got to go in there and freestyle it. Like you know what the end outcome is, but you can't go in there premeditated because you don't know. And I think people see through that. And at the end of the day, no one's going to buy anything off you or transact with you if they don't like you and they don't trust you and if they feel like they're being pressured. You know, some people can be pressure closed, but like ethically that doesn't sit right with me. Like I don't want to sell something unless someone wants to buy it, you know? So it's an interesting game.
It is fun that when you're in there sort of freestyling, I do think that like an opening or a script is really there for that initial it gives you the confidence, like you kind of know what's going to happen in the first 3 sentences or 4 sentences, right? Like to me, it's kind of like knowing some chess openings. It kind of makes you feel more comfortable about the game to begin with.
Absolutely.
But then after that, you're like, all right, now we can just sort of like play and see if the person's into it. Yeah. Because half the battle for a lot of these things is just picking up the phone or knocking on the door because nobody wants to actually do that.
No.
It's terrible. And you're like, fuck. Like,
it is terrible, dude.
Oh, I'm just good because I've done a bunch of cold calls and the game, I found the game at least fun when you're going, all right, like how do you just at least get past a certain thing or how do you manage an objection? And it was the same sort of thing where at the end of the day, you're trying to demonstrate that there is significant value in what you're offering and that the person actually needs it, because if they don't and they don't see it as valuable, then why are you selling to that person in the first place?
Absolutely.
So, but it is a fun game to go into because there is clearly differences between people that are really good at it and the people that aren't. Yeah. So you do know it is a skill.
Yes.
It just sometimes doesn't feel like it's a skill because you're like, it's just fuck.
Yeah.
It's a very funny game.
It's a very funny game. I think, most of it's just, like having the ability to, I feel like, just read people and kind of like match the energy in the room. I think in sales, they call it like mirroring. So for example, like, if I come in here and you're high energy, then I've got to kind of match your energy. But if you're a very calm, cool demeanor and you're speaking slowly and softly, like if I come in and I'm trying to be strong, there's going to be that resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's just, I feel like that's a good skill in life. Like you have that in social circles when you're going
100%,
out.
dude. You have that in that mirroring I've always remembered this because I was in a car heading towards Bunnings for some reason, and then on the radio it came on, and I would have been a teenager at the time, and it came on the radio and this guy was like, oh, the science behind kissing. So as a teenager I was like, please tell me more. Like, would love to know more about this. And the commentary was something along the line of, look, whenever you're kissing someone, just try and mimic exactly what they're doing, because they're going to see themselves as a good kisser. And if you're doing what they do, they're going to therefore see you as a good kisser. And I was like, genius.
It's interesting, isn't it?
So like mirroring, same sort of thing. Like someone's always going to want their energy or their style is probably what they really think is great. Yeah. So you mimic that and they're going to be like, oh, this person's great as well.
Exactly.
So there you go. For anyone that needs some kissing advice, there you go. Mirroring.
I might look into that.
Are you not seeing anyone at the moment?
No. Yeah. No.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Complicated situation.
Okay. Well, hopefully the kissing thing helps.
I'm kissing my dog. I just hug and kiss my dog.
Well, that one's always going to be appreciated.
Yeah.
What kind of dog is it?
She's a chocolate Doberman.
Oh, so is that like a hunting dog?
Yeah, they're like
the short-haired, pointy ears.
Yeah.
Gangster.
But she doesn't look like that. She's got like the long floppy ears and the long tail.
She's kind of like a pointer.
Yeah, she looks like a pointer. They're usually like black and tan, but she's very cute.
Yeah, elite. So the salesy stuff, obviously, you got into residential, moved into commercial.
Yes.
And then same thing, you were just feeling like a general sense of burnout towards the end of it.
Yeah, when I moved into the commercial, I progressed pretty quickly, like career-wise, and I think that was also, maybe it was just a good time in the market as well. And I I moved pretty quickly. Like I jumped around between companies, but that's also, I guess, the nature of the game. And I just went from better opportunity to better opportunity. And at the end, like I was in a really good position working for a really good company. But I felt like I was at that fork in the road where the progression was there to go high up and like be, like an associate director or something like that. But I kind of looked at those people and their lifestyles and I was like, I don't see anyone that I, envy or aspire to. And then at the same time, I was like training full time as well and fighting. So that was really full on.
Because that's obviously something that was sort of one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today was about your Muay Thai and your fighting. And for me personally, it's been so interesting to see the development in the Western world for how now fighting is, UFC being such a major force for propelling it into the mainstream sort of sporting sites of people. And I don't remember really combat sports as a thing during school at all, at least not me personally. And so, now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, obviously, like, what a great thing to get involved in. Like, I don't remember sports teams or people talking about combat sports. It just didn't seem like it was a thing, not at least in my world. So that was one thing I was going to be really interested in is you've been training for Muay Thai for how long?
Maybe like on and off 8 or 9 years. And so like, to your point, it has like combat sports has definitely just exploded over the last 10 years. When we were in school, like UFC was just not a thing.
No.
Maybe you'd know of some big fights, but like no one was necessarily a fan. And I guess had always been pretty sporty. We'd played sports together against each other many a times.
You were typically much more athletic than me.
Sometimes for a skinny kid. But I started doing martial arts like when I was really young. Like my dad put me into Taekwondo and boxing.
Yeah, because I thought you had some combat background, some boxing or something background.
Yeah. So that was just more so for like the discipline and structure of it, but also self-defense. So I did do that as a young kid, and then I kind of stopped around those teenage years and then was just, hardcore on footy and basketball. And then, I think I had some pretty serious injuries as like a teenager that kind of derailed all of that. So sports and everything was on the back burner. And eventually, I tried going back to footy. I went down to Clements and did like a few pre-seasons and my body just couldn't hold up. So I found myself doing the likes of yoga and more stretching and mobility. And just through a friend, actually, I started getting back into some training and he kind of started training me, hitting the pads out the back. And one thing led to another and I just found myself back in the gym and fell in love with it. And I've been kind of on and off since then, but very committed for like the last 4-5 years.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it since I've at least been. It's literally one of the only reasons why social media I think has actual value is because someone that I knew back in school that we've barely seen each other since then.
Yeah.
It's just every now and then you're like, oh, sick, this dude's like now fighting for Australia in Muay Thai and whatever. I was like, and we'll get to that as well.
Yeah.
But that original injury, was it a back injury? What was the...
No, yeah, so it happened when we were like year 10, I think, and I felt like I was like really coming into my prime. I was like sporting wise.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd actually just gone and played I'd literally just gone and played like a state trial game for football, and they had like a possibles and probables team. So like the probables were people that were invited, and then the possibles were people, essentially you just had to sign up and like you'd be lucky if they called your name. So like I got onto that list and had a really, really good couple of games, and I was like sick. Like I got given the initial kit for the state team, like the squad of 40 or whatever, and then literally after that, I went to Big Day Out and jumped the fence and ended up getting chased by the security. and I think I got gently nudged off a roof by this security guard. So I had a really awkward fall, and it fucked me up, man. My hips and my back were just ruined for years, really.
God damn, it's a big day out being the festival, obviously. I didn't recall back in school days that you'd come out with like big injuries at that time. I mean, I don't recall that at all, but I kind of remember now that you say it's sort of like hip stuff and you sort of had ongoing back stuff. So how tall are we, like when you say you gently nudged off a roof, how tall are we talking?
It's a good question. Maybe like 3.5 meters. Pretty high.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I remember landing awkwardly and then like getting up and back onto my feet, still running because I was being chased.
Surely at that point the security guy was like, backed away. I was like, oh fuck.
He got me back. He was sick of me. Because I think I jumped a few times, and then he was like,
"That's it. This is the last time.
That's the final straw, pal. You're out." Yeah. So it was bad, but I don't know. Like, being younger, your body's just so much more resilient.
Yeah.
So I was still able to play like at a high level, but I was just a shadow of myself. I was always having, just issues. And it took me a long, long time to get my body right. And it's still like a work in progress. I mean, I've just overcome another serious injury, probably my worst since my back. And that was unrelated, but yeah, it's crazy.
Didn't get pushed off of another 300 meter building, whatever.
No, that one, yeah. So I'd just come back from Thailand, and we can talk about that, I guess, afterwards. But I'd just come back from Thailand, and essentially I was doing a strength and conditioning program. After that tournament, I was like, I need to get stronger and more explosive. So I was doing a strength and con program, and I was doing some like barbell stuff, and I ended up like pinching a nerve, my long thoracic nerve in my back. I'm up the top at the back of my shoulder, and that was causing me a bit of grief for a few months. I mean, I couldn't really use my right arm, and I was having a lot of issues with pain. And I went and saw someone who was like my regular massage therapist, and he'd give me needling and all that sort of thing on a regular basis. And just by like pure bad luck, he was trying to release some muscles in my neck and jaw, and he pinged another nerve with the needle in my neck. So I had two separate nerve injuries, like one in the middle of my neck, and the other one was the long thoracic. So that's pretty much put me out of action for like the last 9 months. I pretty much had no right arm, like 7 months.
Dude.
Terrible, man.
So like, in some ways, you're kind of hitting a bit of a peak in sport again, like a secondary win.
Yes.
Wind almost.
Yeah.
You're now faced with another injury. This may sound stupid, but is it do you almost know how to deal with it a little bit more given your previous history? Or is it like a PTSD moment where you're like, oh, fuck, not again?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I think you're right. Like with the Muay Thai and stuff, in a sense, like that was me trying to relive, my younger years that I felt like I lost a lot of playing that competitive sport and trying to get to a level that I thought was, I was capable of. So it was very debilitating. Like it sucked. And I didn't know if I'd ever be able to really have full use of my right arm again. Like I got the works done, the nerve conduction tests and multiple MRIs, and the outlook wasn't good, but I'm fortunate that I'm working with some really good people, and particularly in the last couple of months I've made like huge progress, and it's still not quite there, but definitely on the right track and hoping to have a big year next year. That's my goal.
I mean, it's great for the bio. As the story comes out, they become like multiple nerve palsies and,
It sucks, man. Well, I mean, we can talk about, so I guess like my Muay Thai career, I'd had a few fights in Perth locally, and then I did get selected to go with two of my teammates from my gym to be a part of Team Australia, and we went to this competition in Thailand. It was called the WBC Muay Thai Games, and
So cool.
yeah, man, wicked, amazing experience, and yeah.
That must have felt pretty cool though, donning the Aussie colours.
Dude,
like
that was the best
country.
part. That was the best part when they handed out the tracksuits and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I've still got them. I love the merch. Yeah, incredible. And like you're there, so like it was held at what's considered to be, I suppose, like the Madison Square Garden of the East. It's a very historic stadium in Bangkok. It's like the Mecca, really. So it was held there, and just, you know, it was incredible. You're there with, I think there was like 50, 60 other countries.
Wow.
So you're just surrounded by like, they're all, you know, athletes.
Animals as well.
And killers.
Yeah, yeah, just a stadium full of killers.
So it's a very surreal experience. But yeah,
Proper gladiator style, hey?
Dude, it's a different feeling. It's a different feeling. But I went over, around this time last year, I started with my two teammates and we started our fight camp, and we would have probably done 6 to 8 weeks maybe, and we went over to Thailand, the three of us, would have been close to 3 weeks before the tournament and just trained, like acclimatized.
Yep.
And then obviously the training's a lot more accessible over there. There's no distractions. So that was just smashing it out for 2-3 weeks, 2-a-days, and that was intense.
Does Australia support you guys as well, funding wise, for that sort of stuff?
No, they didn't. It was self-funded. But yeah, I mean, America was there, for example, and like their team, dude, was fucking huge, and they were all merched out, and like, yeah, but that was government funded, for example.
Yeah,
so I
okay.
think that's something that will progress eventually, but no, there's not a lot of money in Muay Thai. There's not a lot of money in Muay Thai.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, there's an organisation called One which does pay a lot better, but it's funny, like you see all this stuff with, you know, Jake Paul and just all of this stuff, and boxers and influencers are now making crazy money. It's like, dude, if you go fight in Thailand, which is, you know, possible any night of the week, like you might walk away with like $50.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you know, maybe a couple $100, like depending on your skill level. Even
And you're
over
getting
here,
brutalized in there. It's not some exhibition match. It's like a to the death.
yeah,
$50.
it's pretty full on. I mean, there's some, yeah. I think you made a comment before about chess. Like that's how I see it. Like it's obviously a very savage sport, and there's some serious repercussions. But it's very mindful as well. It's very tactical, and it is like that. It's like playing chess, because every move has a counter move, and you have to be very thought out and methodical of how you want to go about it. And it's interesting. That was the crazy thing about the tournament, is like you don't know who you're fighting. You just rock up on the day. Like you don't see them at the weigh-ins or anything. You just rock up at the ring, and like you just look across the ring and you're just like, oh,
That's the dude.
that's him.
Oh shit!
So
Is
there's
that
no
more
studying.
terrifying, or is it kind of less because you don't have any chance to think about it?
It's an interesting one. I think it can go both ways. Like, if you know who you're fighting, you can obviously study them and develop a game plan and that sort of thing, but you can also kind of wig yourself out a bit. You can kind of be like, fuck, that guy's...
It's fucking good.
Yeah, or like he's staunch, you know? Like, so it's...
What are you? Are you the person that likes to like watch tape and really study people, or you prefer like kind of going a bit blind? What's your style?
You know what? Like I used to definitely be like that. But I think I've learned that the best thing to do is you just focus on yourself, and you just train to the best of your abilities, and you get as fit as you can. And then, you know, maybe it's good to know about your opponent, whether they're like a southpaw or something. But yeah, I think I used to be. Now I'm just like, I'm just going to be the best version of myself. And yeah, you learn when you're in there. You learn very quickly. Like if they're using something on you, they're getting you with the same shots. Like, that's just the game, you know. You got to adjust.
True. I mean, yeah, it would be a very quick. I'm imagining anyway. It's a very fast like pattern recognition you have to go through because the consequences are so high.
Yeah.
If you don't pick up that pattern well,
Yeah.
then you're going to get blitzed in the face or the leg or wherever, and you're like, "Fuck, I missed out. I should have saw that coming."
Yeah, and it's just, you know, you can have a game plan, but it's like you've really just got to be able to adjust on the fly.
I've always wanted to know as well. So like in the fight, right? You know, adrenaline is pumping.
Yeah.
Like from the like from the get go, it's got to be just pumping.
Yeah.
First kick, punch, whatever, thrown, elbow. Your whole being must be like on fire. How much during the fight are you really experiencing the pain of blows versus like obviously at the end you're walking away limping and sore, I'm guessing, but in the fight itself, like if you experience a blow, do you feel like you have like a 50% reduction in pain at that time just because of the state that you're in, or do you have a sense of that at all?
Not really. Like, unless you get unless you get hit with the proper shot. Like sometimes if they hit you really, really fair and square on the chin, you know, it might ring your bell a bit. I actually got TKO'd in my last fight. So not knocked out, but I got dropped a couple of times and the ref called it. That was the one in Thailand. But no, you don't feel it. I mean, what you feel are the body shots. Like that's the one thing, you know, because the adrenaline's pumping so high, you can take the kicks and you take it to the body, you can take it to the head, but it's the fucking body shots, man. Like if it takes the wind out of you, and then you're just like, and you're trying to recover from that the whole round. But the scariest part is really like the process before the fight and the walkout, and then when you're in the ring and you're just waiting, like, and everyone's watching, and you're just like, And I think every fighter gets nervous. People deal with it in different ways, but once the bell goes, like, it's just, you know, that's what you've been training for. It's on, and after the first few exchanges, whatever nerves you have are kind of gone. But it's that pre-fight which sucks. It fucking sucks because it's like, and Muay Thai is very old school and traditional as well. So it's like you might be warming up next to each other, like just before you fight, like you're hitting pads and shadow boxing, and like you're literally just watching your opponent and they're watching you, and it's like it's an interesting feeling. And then in some cases you end up like sitting next to each other and you watch, so you'll get called up the fight before, and then in some cases you're just sitting next to each other like in silence watching the fight before yours. And then you get called out one by one. Yeah, it's a very surreal, crazy feeling.
So, because there's so much there that is incredibly uncomfortable, and terrifying, and like, you know, it's just, you're like, oh god, that sounds like it's actually horrendous. Yeah. So for you, what is the payoff? You know, because you've got to train incredibly hard. You've got to do these crazy cuts. You've got to do the walkout. You know, all these things, which are generally like a really uncomfortable thing for yourself to do. So for you, like, where is and what is the payoff?
I think, I mean, really for me, like, I'm a gym owner now, so like I coach as well. But yeah, from a fighting perspective, it's just, it's that self growth that you see within yourself, and the disciplines and all the byproducts of that. Like, you know, you're training hard, you're in good shape, you know, you're disciplined, you've got regime in place, you want to eat well. Like, you know, I don't want to go out and drink and that sort of thing. Like, I just want to be fresh so I can train twice tomorrow. Like, it's those little byproducts of actually doing it. And then of course there's, you know, the mental side where you're getting stronger, but the physical side where you see the progression in yourself, and you see that, like, you see your skill set getting better. You spar and you start learning new moves and you implement them, and yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think any martial arts are very mindful activity, and it's very therapeutic in that sense. But yeah, they're addictive, and I think people love it so much because you very quickly see progress in yourself, whether it be fitness or technique or whatever it may be. Yeah, and it's addictive.
What about, the other interesting thing that I see is, when you're watching UFC, particularly the Dana White Contender Series, Tough, where you're getting this insane backstories of all these fighters as they're coming up and trying to make some of them something of themselves. A lot of them have similar threads through the storylines: difficult, tough life, childhood issues, or come from poverty. Essentially they're fighting against something in order to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So I guess from your side, do you have something that you feel like you've been fighting against, or somewhere that you're getting to, or do you tend to see that as well in other fighters?
Yeah, I mean, to speak about others first, like I'm really lucky. I've been able to meet and train with and interact with like world-class fighters and world champions. And I mean, on a daily basis, I'm hanging out with guys who are like world ranked. One of the guys that I train with every day, Alex Roberts, was the former WBC heavyweight world champion, and his partner, fiance Fon, is 14-0, undefeated, like
Damn.
gold medalist at the games in
Sick.
January. And then my other teammate won silver.
Wow.
And I got a participation trophy. I got knocked out in the first round. Not the first round, the first fight. But yeah, being surrounded by those people, it's very interesting. And they all have different reasons. I mean, the irony is most of these people are so lovely.
Yeah.
Like, they're such nice people and they're genuine. And I feel like everyone's got some form of demon. I mean, you've got to be a little bit crazy to want to compete like that. And me personally, I think it's a combination of just being a competitive person, a little bit stubborn too. And yeah, a lot of it stems back to, like, the reason I had my first fight was because my dad had put me into martial arts at a young age, and he'd always really encouraged it. And he passed away when I was young, 13, on my 13th birthday, actually. So, yeah, that was a rough experience, obviously. And I felt like I always wanted, like, he was always so supportive of me and my sports and all of those activities. So I always wanted to pay homage to him in some respect. And I think I never got to do that properly through, the other sports that I played. And eventually, in my early to mid-20s, I came back to Muay Thai, and I think I set myself I just wanted to have one fight, and I wanted to do it for myself, and then I wanted to do it to pay homage to him in some regard. And yeah, that was definitely a driving force at the start.
Yeah, that's beautiful, dude. Yeah.
And then it's just carried on, and now, things move quickly. Now I'm a gym owner and a coach and a fighter, and it's like, fuck, that wasn't, it just happened.
Deal.
Yeah.
So, like, at what point did you start to think to yourself, so on one hand, we were talking a bit earlier about when you were sort of in the real estate world and you were selling residential and commercial, and you sort of had that fork in the road, and you're like, I just don't think this is actually the life for me. Yeah. And then seemingly, at least right now, Muay Thai has come along. It wasn't meant to be anything more than, I've got one thing that I want to achieve, and, and see what happens, I guess. But was there a turning point within Muay Thai again that you sort of went, oh shit, this is definitely something I really want to get involved in?
I think, yeah. I mean, like, although for my first fights, like, they're amateur fights, right? But, like, you still have to treat yourself as a professional athlete in a sense. Like, you're getting up, you're running before work, you're going to work, you're training 2-3 hours in the evening, like 5-6 days a week. And it was that workload, and then I think the progression of moving through classes, going to a fighter's class, having your first fight, like, you keep ticking boxes, and then you kind of just go, like, how far can I go? And for me, like, I'm not good enough or old enough to be like a world champion, but I've set myself like a goal of being a state champion. And yeah, I think that's the driving force at the moment. But it's also the change in lifestyle, the fork in the road, like I'm so much happier living this life and dealing with the people that I do on a daily basis. Like it's a very surreal thing. But like, you know, you're in an environment where everyone's positive, everyone's there for a positive outcome. They all want to train, they all want to learn. You're around people who are, you know, professionals in a sense. Like they're all just striving to be better in every regard. So it rubs off on you. Like it's just, and I was so drawn to that. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
I think it does. I mean, certainly if you end up being around a bunch of people and a lifestyle that makes you go, I like how this makes me, I like how this makes me feel.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to think of a reason why you wouldn't just sort of, I'm just going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
More of it, basically.
Yeah.
And obviously you've now been, and probably you've been coaching a little bit, and I'm not sure if the injuries have sort of propelled you into that a little bit more than you may have been doing.
Yeah.
What's even from in this early stages as, you know, part coach as well, is there a big, like, do you find more of a love of the sport through coaching on top of it? Is it just changing your experience overall?
Yeah, I think I've always enjoyed, like I've always coached junior sports, footy and basketball, and there's definitely a part of me that really enjoys that, and helping people. I feel like that's a big factor. But yeah, the coaching in particular with the Muay Thai, like it's an interesting one. Like I do all the classes, not every night, but I help with all the classes, the kids and the beginners, intermediate, and then the fighters as well. And like, it's just, I don't know, it's a very, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a very rewarding thing. It's a very rewarding thing. And like, you know, I'm fortunate to know so many people's different stories, which is just, you know, something that they'll disclose to me and maybe no one else in the gym knows, but like knowing their purposes or their progress or what, you know, what they're fighting and why they're here. And like, it's just, yeah, it's a very, I don't know, I find it rewarding process and rewarding gig.
Do you tend to see the change in people? So you obviously deal with a bunch of beginners that come to the gym. Do you tend to notice certain changes in people or patterns that you see that when they've had no combat experience beforehand, they're just trying to do it for a bit of fun? Do you see anything personality-wise change, or I guess, people change as they start to progress through that sort of Muay Thai experience?
Huge, man. I mean, one that comes straight to mind is I've got a younger boy that's come to my gym and he's been there for maybe like a year now. 16, I think he's just turned 17. And his mum brought him to the gym essentially because she felt like she'd struck out, like he was getting kicked out of school and up to all sorts of no good. And it was like a last roll of the dice, really. She thought, I need to get him to something. And the progression that I've seen in that kid in a year is crazy. Like, just, in every facet of his life, he wasn't going to school, he was doing all sorts of things. Next minute, like, he's winning leadership awards and he's ticking off TAFE courses and all that sort of thing. And just seeing, like, the structure and discipline it's given him. He comes in every night, like, he stretches, he warms up, he warms down, he does all the classes. I'm getting him to help me with the kids' classes now, which is really good, and, you know, pay him a little bit of cash on the side. And, like, you see some amazing stories, but that's a cool one because he was definitely on the wrong path, and his mum pulled me to the side recently, actually, and said, like, not just me, like all the other coaches and everyone in the gym, she was like, I've just got to thank you guys because he's done, you know, a complete 180 and it's incredible. It's just him and his mum in the house, and she's like, I come home now, he's cleaned the house, he's made me dinner, like he's done the laundry, like he just takes the initiative, and he's just,
That's so cool.
You see cool things like that, man, and it's like, fuck, it's amazing.
Totally worth it. Like, fuck, this is sick. All right. Definitely in the right biz.
Yes, sir.
So the other thing I'm always interested in as well, because I've romanticized about a fight, like, because I've done a small amount of boxing, I've done a small amount of Muay Thai as well, all training, and I can just, it does feel like, at least when I've done it, and been building up, you slowly do acquire skills, and it does feel like there's just small little levels up here and there. There's always something very attractive to just something where you feel like you're progressing a little bit. But that first fight has to be, is it sort of like you'll never forget the first fight?
Yeah. It's interesting. God, I don't know. For me, actually, like I felt like my first fight was my best fight, and I think he was also my hardest. He was also my hardest opponent. But the nerves are crazy. This was out in Midland, my first one, and it was like in a car factory. It was cool. They had like Ferraris and Lambos and stuff everywhere, and I had a lot of people come and support me. And like I was so confident in myself because I was just like, I had that belief. And you know, when you walk out and you see like all your family and friends and shit, you're like, oh, it adds that extra level of stress and pressure. But I don't know. It's it's definitely memorable. I mean, the emotions before the fight, but I don't mean to sound like, I don't mean to say it probably comes across arrogant, but like I've always felt like in any regard, like I've liked to surround myself with people who are better than me, or like I always like to put myself in those pressure situations because I feel like I adjust quite well. So it's almost like when the pressure's on, I feel like I acclimatise quickly and I adjust, which is a weird thing. But yeah, my first fight was probably my most confident fight, and then since then I've had a few ups and downs. I mean, my one in Thailand did not go to plan at all. That was terrible.
What did you get caught with there?
Knees to the face.
Oh.
Yeah. But that was just the lead up to that was not good. Like I was cutting weight, and as we were talking about before, cutting weight's a massive thing. Usually it's probably the hardest part of it all. And
how much weight did you have to cut for that fight, for instance?
I think over the course of like 6 weeks, it would have been about 10 kilos.
Fuck, it's a lot of weight, dude.
And I'm not a big dude, you know. Like,
so how much do you weigh now, just like sitting?
Like walking around, I'm, you know, mid to low 80s. And I fight at like 72, 74.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I usually don't have a problem with it. Like, but this tournament was same day weigh-ins. So you're meant to go, you're walking around, mate, and it's tough. And I was over there and I was just like, I could not get the weight off, and I was training so much and I like dieting and everything. I think for like 10 days leading up to that fight, I didn't have any carbs because I had to be on weight the day before the competition and then the day of. So
you didn't have time to like rehydrate at all, really? No.
So yeah, I'd completely depleted myself for like just shy of 2 weeks leading up to it to get to weight.
Yeah.
And then I went and weighed in the night before with the rest of like Team Australia and all you know, all the other countries. You go do your weigh-in, go have a little bit to eat, a little bit to drink, and then I could go back to the hotel, essentially, jump in the bath, do like a mini weight cut, go to bed, dehydrated and depleted, wake up in the morning again, cut the rest of the weight, and then you're standing around for fucking hours. Like, it's a nightmare at the weigh-ins. You're standing around for hours and you're dehydrated, and like, then it was like, wait in, go back to the hotel, have breakfast, try and rehydrate, and then fight like 2-3 hours later.
Must have felt like a zombie.
Yeah, I knew I was in trouble because like I was the fittest I'd ever been, and I was training and sparring so much, you know, for weeks leading up to that, and I was like nose breathing. I was like, this is easy. I'm gonna be sweet. And then 30 seconds in, I started gassing, and I was like, oh, we've got a problem here.
Okay, we did not expect this one.
We've got an issue. So
does that mean now you have to look at fighting up a weight class slightly, or how do you adjust with something like that?
That one was different because it was, you know, the weigh-in the day before and the weigh-in the day of. But no, I'll still cut weight. I'm trying to put on some muscle at the moment and just some lean mass, and but but I'll still cut down to 72, 74 kilos. It's quite doable if you do it properly, like through diet and obviously like hard training. You know, the weight really starts to come off. You just get shredded. But yeah, the weight cutting's not a problem for me if you do it properly. And it's just that discipline. Like I think I said to you before, for me, the week of my fight, it's like no carbs, no sugar, no sodium, no salt. You know, you're still training, like you're depleted. And then I usually do the last few kilos in a sauna. And fortunately, I'm a sweaty boy, so I can knock it out pretty quickly. But yeah, I'll usually cut 2 or 3 kilos the day of the weigh-in, and then go to the weigh-in. You know, you spend the whole day feeling like a zombie because you're just dead and depleted. But go to the weigh-in and then probably put on 5, 6, 7 kilos like overnight.
So what you're saying is that normal cut. So you cut the same way as well. This recent one, the only difference was the fact that you had to also do same weight on the same day. Is that the only difference, or you felt that your cut during that period that was a bit off compared to previously?
Yeah, so that tournament was in weight classes, and there was quite a big difference between the weight classes, like 4 or 5 kilos. And I was like consulting with my coaches while I was over there, and they were adamant that they wanted me to go to the lower weight. So I got close. I think I got within like 2 kilos, but I just could not shed that last bit of weight. And that's when I had to start dieting really heavily. And so I had to do a weight cut the day before to weigh in, and then another weight cut the day of to weigh in and fight. So yeah, that's different. Usually you have like a weigh in on a Friday night, and then you go refuel and you fight on Saturday night. So like you can get your levels back to normal and you can rehydrate. And
did you miss the weight on that go then, or did you make weight in the end?
No, I made weight, because if you didn't make weight, it was eliminated from the tournament.
Yeah, okay, you got no choice.
So that was a massive component, because people were fucking fighting like 3-4 days in a row and had to cut weight 3-4 days in a row. Like my teammate Fon, who won gold, I look at that, I'm just like, I don't even, incomplete. Yeah, it's crazy. She was just cutting weight every day, and she'd go out and fight every day, and like then go eat a little bit, and it's just like the mental strength and professionalism is crazy.
That's very impressive.
But it's not fun. I don't recommend it. Like, it's not fun.
It's not a way to get ready for summer.
It's
like if anyone's out there thinking like, oh, I could lose a couple of kilos, like it's not a good way to do it.
Do it the healthy way.
Yeah, the long-term way, the way that everyone's meant to do it slowly, I guess. So you've got a bit of a weight cut like protocol in place, so you kind of know what you're doing there. Through that 6 to 8 week fight camp that you got going on as well, like how regimented, do you know exactly what's going to happen over the course of like an 8-week fight camp, or is it you kind of know what's happening the next day, or like how regimented really is it?
Yeah, obviously if I'm training here at my gym, I do, and then I'll give you an example. Pretty much you should be doing, when you're in fight camp, you should be doing your strength and conditioning 2-3 times a week, which is outside of the gym. And then you'll be training, obviously here in Perth, we train at night because everyone works. So we'll train, you'll do your 2-3 hours at night. And then it's a mixture of things. You fluctuate between doing pads and bag, and then like clinching and sparring. So you kind of throw like a wider net to start with, just do everything. And obviously you're doing your running and your strength and con and your cardio on the side. And then as you get closer to the fight, you really start to like hone in. And it might be way more specific. But there's a thing for all fighters called Bull Week, which is usually the week before fight week, so 2 weeks out. We've just gone through one of them with one of my friends and one of our fighters, Jonty. They are fucking terrible, bro. Like, it's
Bull Week.
It is terrible. It is the worst. Like, you're just getting crushed in every regard. You're cooked. Like, you might start with pads and you'll be absolutely cooked, and then it's just like, then you do your sparring, then you do your clinching, and a big thing is like shark tanking, they call it. So it's like sparring, for example. You'll just be in the middle and you might have like 2, 3, 4, 5 people who are your opponents and they're just rotating, but you don't get a rest.
Yeah, so you're just fighting fresh opponents.
Yeah, like might change every minute, minute and a half, 3 minutes, whatever it looks like. Or, you know, what we did with, what we've done with Jonty is he'll spar for 3 minutes and then there's like a 1 minute rest at the end of each round. And then in that 1 minute rest, like we'll just put someone big on him and just make them clinch him, which is essentially like grappling. So he just gets no rest. And then as soon as that minute's up, he just goes straight back into sparring. Like you rock up to the gym and you just know, like, I'm just going to get fucking destroyed tonight.
Because again, my limited experience in Muay Thai, it's like you do 10 kicks in a row and you gas up. You know, like 10 hard kicks and you're like, oh, all right. And then you go for like, if someone's getting you to do 20 or something, you're like, oh, dude, that's a lot. Like,
it's a lot.
And if they keep saying harder and you're like trying, you're like, you gas quick with kicks.
So
that was the one thing that, so boxing, I always found, I always loved it because it felt like you got gassed, but you could just like keep working through this, like where you're exhausted, but you could just keep going a little bit more.
Yeah.
With the kicks in Muay Thai, like I think that was the first time I was like, I'm actually proper gas. Like I can't breathe after what I've just done right now.
Yeah, that's, as a trainer now as well, like I love handing those out. Like you'll get something, you know, you might give them 10, 20 kicks either side to start the round, and then you'll cook them on the pads, and then you'll just make them finish the round with that as well. Yeah. But it's, you know, at that point, it's not even about like, it's just building that mental strength. Because you want to train, you know, you want to train hard and fight easy, essentially. You want to know that you've left like no stone unturned and you've absolutely killed yourself in the gym. They're the little mental battles, you know, the extra kicks at the end and 300 knees or whatever on the bag and like just shit like that. They're the little wins that I feel like make a big difference, the 1%ers.
Have you ever gone into a fight, you know, in the back of my mind being like, fuck, I didn't put in 100%?
Yeah. The one I had before I went to Thailand, like I was very, very like half in, half out. I think I'd had 2 fights that year and work was hectic and I was in a new relationship at the time, and I was just like too much, you know. And then I was still fit and my coaches matched me and they were like, just, you know, do it. You know, you're still fit. We were all very confident that I was going to beat him. I was very confident that I was going to beat him. And I kind of went into it and I just don't think my mindset was there. Like I wasn't fully invested. And I was a little bit sick and I just had a lot of things going on. And yeah, I remember that one, it was at the weigh-ins. I was like we weighed in and we were facing off with each other and I was just looking him in the eyes. And I was like, he was a scary dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, he was pretty staunch. Nice guy, we're friends now, but yeah, I just remember looking at him and I was just like, fuck, I don't know if I've done the work for this one, you know?
Oh, that's brutal, dude.
And I was just like, yeah, but there's no backing out, is there? You just got to go. So yeah, I nearly knocked him out, but I just, I nearly took the win off him, but yeah, my mind wasn't there for that one, and that's not a mistake I'll make again. Like you need to be fully invested.
That's a whole. That's a whole thing that I forgot about, because the stare off is such a. I don't know. It's always been like one of those really well known parts of any fight, you know, because presses around it. Someone might get pushed or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So like there tends to be a lot of coverage for the stare down. But actually being the person in the stare down, like, so again, what are the thoughts they've gone through? Because you're right, at that moment of staring down, if there's any doubt that you haven't put the work in, that has to be the first thing that comes up. You're like, fuck, I don't, shit. Yeah. I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, if he put the work in, I don't know if I put the full fucking work in. Fuck!
Yeah. I mean, that's the only time I've had that problem.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
So
it's... Because it comes back to like knowing about your opponents before and stuff. Like I stopped caring about that, and because I cut so much weight, I generally hope that I have a size and reach advantage for the lower weight classes. So I kind of always just assume that. But I remember like rocking up to the weigh-ins and I was facing off with this dude and I was like, he's fucking a lot bigger than I thought he was going to be. He's like my height and he's thick. And I just remember looking into his eyes and he had the eyes of like a baby seal. Like he just had these fucking like a baby shark. He was just staring straight into my soul. And I was like, this might be a problem.
Let's go, I guess.
I mean, yeah, it's just it's a crazy feeling.
That's a wild, yeah. It must be a crazy feeling that you're both going like it's about to go down.
Everyone's nervous though, you know, like
100%. Do you find do you have a game plan with the stare down? I know it sounds silly, but is there a game plan with the stare down?
Some people do different things. Some people smile and, you know, like it's pretty awkward. You're fucking standing there like, you know, depleted and you're just like, you're face to face with this person. You've both been training to severely hurt each other. It's a weird interaction. But me personally, I'm usually pretty chilled. I just kind of size them up and then like, I don't try and be staunch or anything like that. I just look at them. You know, and sometimes I look at the ground. Like I'm not a believer in that, you know, trying to intimidate my opponent because I don't think I'm a very staunch looking guy. Like I'm not a very scary looking guy, so I don't really lean into that. But yeah, for me, when I'm up there, I just focus on my breathing. That's it. I just try and like control my heart rate and my breathing and just like set the tone from there.
Is there any time where you chat shit as well? Like, is there any back and forth? Are you trying to find reasons to hate the person at all, or is it that's not? Part of,
not in Muay Thai. There's not a lot of trash talk, but like in the fight camp, like you definitely build an enemy in your mind.
Yeah, okay.
You need to, you know, like there's those moments when you're tired and you're sore and you don't want to train, and then you just remind yourself that like someone's fucking coming for your head.
Yeah,
and there's nowhere to hide. Like, so you better be ready.
Yeah, true. You do need that little dark monster in the background that's coming for you.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing because you do beat the shit out of each other and then it's like you're bowing and you're hugging and everything afterwards. Like, it's a very respectful game. I'm friends with all of my opponents. Like, I speak to them pretty regularly. Like, I'm friends with everyone. And even at training when you spar, like, depending who you're with and who you're training with, like, you are hurting each other. But then it's all love and hugs and kisses afterwards, you know. It's a very strange thing.
It reminds me of really like good friends or friends really nice and kind to each other, and then really good friends are fucking brutal to each other.
Yes, same thing, right?
Yeah, there's some level of, you know, I don't need to worry about your sensitivities, I don't need to worry about you being, you know, injured or anything like that. It's more like I'm trying to prepare you as best as I can for the brutality of the world.
Exact same thing.
And so then you should be like, all right, these are actually my people.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. But it is like that. It is like that. Like, you don't want, like, I often say to our beginners and stuff, like, we'll do simple drills, and it might be something like simple, like slipping off a jab, or like, you know, someone's throwing a kick at you. Like, how do you counter? And people like instinctually don't want to do it properly. Like, I'll be like, throw a jab, and then you've got to slip it, you know. And then like they won't throw it at their chin, and I'm like, you have to throw it at their chin, because you're more than likely, if you're throwing it out there, you're probably going to hit them because that's where they're going. But two, like, it's just a bad tendency. Like, you're immediately learning bad habits, and I was like, you're actually doing them a disservice because they're learning the wrong way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, it's an interesting thing, but like instinctually, people, it happens all the time. Like, you're playing around and sparring with people, or you're holding pads and they'll kick you and they're like, oh, sorry. And you're like, don't be sorry, it's all right. It's what we're here for.
Yeah, you got to do it actually.
You
got to do it harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, there must be a little, even from, again, the light bit of sparring that I've done, it's probably one of the harder things I can think of during it, which is there is a bit of concern in the background that you're not actually trying to hurt the person. So anytime there's like a connection, there's just like a little bit of guilt where you're like, oh, really sorry about that.
Yeah.
But like anything, it's probably similar to like the cold calling stuff. It's just you do enough repetition of it and you get comfortable enough with people and you start to like recognize that that's not necessary way to feel. Like obviously, if you actually hurt someone, you'd be like, oh, we didn't mean to do that. But you probably just like anything, get used to it the more you do it.
Yeah. It's a good correlation. I think it just depends. Like, it depends who you're training with. For example, like I've got certain teammates that like, we've trained together long enough and we know how we fight and all that sort of thing. So it's like we'll go a little bit harder on each other. Whereas if someone's new into the fight team, like you might be a little bit hard on them, but like you don't want to bully them, you don't want to hurt them. But like I got my ass kicked like 2 nights ago by my teammate, and he was just flogging me. But I was like, it's good, like I got to learn, I got to adjust. Like yeah, it's good.
I need this.
Yeah.
What are your shins like? Like are they?
They're not too bad. They
Could you cut down a tree with them if you needed to?
Maybe no, I don't think so. I could try. They're not too bad. Yeah, they're like, that's just another thing. It's just time and conditioning, and like you just get that through freaking training, man. Kicking the heavy bag, pads, sparring. Even you wear shin pads and full pads when you spar, and it always hurts. Like any bit of shin on shin contact sucks. But like they do become desensitized, and it's not too bad.
What are the more common, people get battered and bruised, I'm sure all the time. Are there any sort of common injuries that you tend to see like pop up, that particularly from beginner side? This is the physio and me talking now, obviously.
Yeah. Well, okay, from a physio perspective, like flexibility and range of motion and stuff is a big thing. So like a lot of people, it takes time. Like it takes time to build those like that dexterity in your hips and like, the technique of kicking and all that sort of thing. So a lot of people, I think, struggle with that at the start. And I'd say like, they get tight in their back or hammies or quads or whatever, abductors. That's always an issue. But not really. Like it's an interesting thing for such a brutal sport. Like once again, one of my teammates, I cornered her in her last fight, and she had like a fucking 5-round war, and she got cut quite badly above her eyebrow, which required stitches. But like that was in the 2nd round, I think. She still finished the fight, and they're kicking and elbowing and kneeing, and it's like she walks out, and I was like, "How's the body?" And she was like, "Yeah, good." Couple bumps and bruises. So it's like, it's an interesting thing. You do condition yourself. Like you do get conditioned. But yeah, I mean, there are some general injuries, things happen.
Plus, I guess you're almost, it's a sport that you're preparing for pain and discomfort. And, I guess the classical term of an injury, which could even just mean like a simple bruise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally aware that you will absolutely receive some level of injuries to your body. Whereas in most other sports, that's not, it may be a byproduct, but it's not like the feature of the sport.
Yeah.
In fighting, it's guaranteed that, I'm sure a few people have managed to do a KO, a clean KO, clean fatality of knock someone out, no damage taken onto them.
Yeah.
But it's got to be rare. Have you done a
clean KO?
Clean KO?
No, not in a fight. I've been very close. Like, I've had a few 8 counts where I've dropped them like real hard. But obviously, you get the 8 count, you get time to recover, and you come back. I haven't had a clean knockout. I think, I've rung some bells. I mean, I've had mine rung many a times too. Probably the worst thing I think I've done to someone in sparring was actually a fucking, not even a Muay Thai move, but it was like, did you see that John Jones spinning back kick?
Yeah.
I did that to someone and like hit them in the liver. The opposite, John Jones did it with his left leg. I did it with the right, and I came around and like, he was a big boy. This was at an old gym I was at, and he just fucking dropped, man. And he was out for a couple of weeks. So it's like, that's probably the worst. Yeah, that's probably the worst injury I think I've caused someone.
Oh, that liver shot. Because, yeah, I mean,
Terrible.
I've only had a very light touching of that with a boxing glove, so nothing like a kick directly to it. And it's like a little shock wave that goes across your body that you kind of like shut down. You're like, ugh! It's a wild one. So, because you're not allowed to do those kinds of kicks in Muay Thai?
You are. So I think, like, yeah, that's for people that don't know or understand what Muay Thai is. I essentially just say, like, it's boxing, but you can kick, you can knee, you can elbow. In fact, they're all encouraged. And and then there's like an element of grappling in it. Like, you can't take it to the ground, but like you can, it's called clinching. So you can engage in that when you're standing up. And that in itself, like, there's a striking element, but then there's the clinching, which is just a whole nother ball game. And in there, that's where you're more susceptible to elbow someone, knee them, sweep them, toss them. It's cool. Clinching's good fun, but yeah.
Because you get points with, so every time you sweep someone, get them to ground, you're essentially receiving a point, or
it's similar to a scoring for boxing, like the way they score it. But yeah, I mean, it varies, say in Australia to where it does in Thailand or whatever. But yeah, like the high scoring things are obviously knocking someone out. Putting them on the ground is probably the highest scoring thing you can do. And then after that, like cutting someone.
So damage is a big one as well.
Damage is how they score. So kicks, cuts, and then of course like sweeping or catching someone's kick and dropping them, something like that scores really well as well.
How do you differentiate to people, or how do you see the differentiation between UFC and something like mixed martial arts? Muay Thai and mixed martial arts, where I sort of see Muay Thai. It seems like, oh wow, like is it not just going to get subsumed by mixed martial arts? But then you see that Muay Thai is actually like such a huge sport in and of itself.
Yeah.
So do you sort of see, Muay Thai as just a competing entity to mixed martial arts? Do you think there's a bit of a crossover that you see happening in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Muay Thai is really, really growing, and there's an organisation called One Now, which I believe in terms of viewership does like far superior numbers to the UFC.
Right.
I think they're based out of Singapore, but that's a combination of like Muay Thai kickboxing. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, honestly, like in terms, it depends what you like. Like in terms of striking, like someone who's a purist, like Muay Thai or boxing, they're going to be better than anyone in the UFC. But then UFC, that's everything. So it's like you have to be so cautious. For example, like you might be a really good striker or a really good kicker, but in the UFC, like you might be reluctant to use that because it's like if you're versing a wrestler, they're going to wait for you to kick and they're going to grab it and then just take you to the ground. So it's an interesting thing. But no, Muay Thai has grown hugely, man. Like in the last, and I'm only very fresh and new in the game still, but to see the progression is crazy. Like you should watch Channel 7 play it. Watch that and watch the fights, and like I'm a little bit more biased, but like they're just so much more entertaining. Because it's just non-stop action, non-stop banging, and then it's like, unless it's a massive main UFC event, I'm not really interested.
You guys do use 16-ounce gloves, or what's the glove size?
Varies. I mean, I think when I fight in 8 or 10s, and then that organisation One, for example, they use like the MMA gloves.
The 4 or 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah, the 4s, I think. Yep. So, they're fucking like, it's brutal.
Yeah, I might have to start watching a little bit more One.
Check it out, dude. You'll like it.
It's the one thing about the UFC where occasionally you can get a little bit of a yawn if it's just like a fairly even ground game between a couple of people, where if there's really interesting jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan. I've done a tiniest amount of jiu-jitsu where at least I'm now like, I can sort of pick up like, why is that person trying to do that?
Yeah.
So at least I can really enjoy that side of it, but there is a lot of, you're kind of there for the striking most of the time. Yeah. So, given that One is pretty much all striking, does sound like an easy match made in heaven.
It's beautiful violence.
Beautiful violence. Hopefully that's a quote on your gym somewhere.
No, it should be. Yeah, I'm lucky with my gym actually. So like, my head coach is a very well respected, and my business partner very well respected, and he's like a wealth of knowledge, man. I learned so much off him, and through him, I've been able to meet so many incredible people in the sport. So I'm very fortunate there. Perth, Australia has really high level Muay Thai. Like, I'd probably say we're second or third best in the world.
Wow, okay.
Maybe a little bit lower now because some of the European countries are coming. But WA in particular, you wouldn't even know it, but like we've got so many world champions in Perth. Like I think, I'm not sure at the moment, but there'd be at least 5 or 6.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Have you trained anywhere over east or seen what goes on in gyms over there?
I've been over east for fights. Like I've cornered a few fights this year, and I've trained at a few different gyms in Thailand. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people in the Perth Muay Thai community and kind of get an understanding. But yeah, there's different levels to it. Like it's growing as a sport. Some people love it for fitness and self-defense, and for that it is fucking amazing. But yeah, there's different, like my gym, for example, before I got involved with it and became a partner.
Sorry, I'm just going to close the door. I can hear a lawnmower going down.
Do that.
Sorry about that lawnmower. Probably can still hear it, but well, should be all right. I can cut it out. Yeah, so gym-wise, I was going to be interested. Sorry, were you finishing off something?
I think I was going to say... ask me about the gym. Ask me about... I was just going to say, like, my gym, for example, very boutique. Like, my coach and who the gym's named after, GTG, Gab's Thai Gym, he had been open for around 10 years, but, like, he's a purist. So, like, he only would allow certain people to come train there, and then it's, like, only if you're fighters, really. He was turning away masses for a long time. So we were in a tiny little commercial unit, like freaking tiny, man. And it was just enough. Like, it's all you needed. It was a little bit grimy, but it was good. Like, had a ring, had the bags, a little bit of weights, some running machines, like very old school. And then when I became partners with him in the business, we decided to open it up a bit more. Not necessarily be commercial, but you know, open the doors to more people, more beginner friendly, push the kids. I'm just lucky, like, he established a really good gym and brand name for quality. And, you know, that's, I guess, portrayed through your fighters. Like, a lot of his fighters just had amazing records. One of them at the moment is still like 14-0, which is just, you know, it's not like boxing. Like, losses are quite common. You just keep going. But yeah, we've got an incredible coaching staff, like a couple of Thai coaches who have probably got like 500-600 fights between them combined.
Crazy.
And then a few other coaches. So yeah, we've opened it up, but not looking to be a big gym. Just want to produce good quality, authenticity, and good service. Like, smaller membership base, but quality is essentially our objective.
It must be nice as well, like when you're opening up a little bit, and so you've just got more faces around where, again, you get to see more chance for progression. You get slightly larger chance for, I guess, like a little community to start to build up as well. Yeah, you know, that in itself has to be kind of like a cool motivating force where you're now helping, you know, however many people it is, improve their quality of life and health and confidence. And, you know, that's one of the coolest things I think about any combat gym, that as you have a bunch of people that really respect the way that you're training, coaching, you're really like positively impacting such a large group of people. Yeah, it's not like a small thing in my mind. You know?
Yeah, it's very cool. And like, the irony is like, I'm obviously a co-owner, but I'm the least experienced of all coaches. But, you know, I get to learn from these people like every day and every night, and I look up to them all. They're still my coaches, even though I'm technically the boss or the owner, if you will. Like, I don't look at it like that. Like, I look up to all of them, and like I seek advice and guidance from all of them. And when I'm in the gym, I'm doing what I'm told by them. Like, I'm learning from them. But yeah, it's cool, man. Like, when we first moved there, we might have like 10 to 15 people in a class.
Where is it now?
It's in O'Connor.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You're 10 or 15 in a class.
10 or 15 in a class, and then like some nights we're having like 40, 35, 40 people, and it's only a small gym. Like, everyone's jammed in there like a sardine, but we make it work. And yeah, the beauty of it is that like we don't market or advertise. Everything's word of mouth, and people bring in their friends, and I think like that's really cool, because that just shows that, you know, people love what we're offering and the authenticity of it. And I guess it comes back to the sales thing. Like, I'm not looking to go out there and persuade people to come to my gym. Like, if you find it and you like it, that's good. You know, I'm not trying to twist anyone's arm. I'm not putting out, like, we're not big on marketing and adverts and all that sort of thing.
Do you guys do like a intro?
Yeah. So we first class free, and then after that we offer a 2-week trial, $38, and then essentially like all unlimited, right? Come as much as you want. And then essentially the way that we do it is just, I say month to month, but you can pay weekly, fortnightly, monthly, just month to month. No sign-up fees, no lock-in fees, no cancellation. Pause anytime you want.
No lock-in fees. That always gets me if I go to a gym that has the lock-in fee. But
Yeah. No, so we did, essentially, if you want to do the trial, you do the trial. Otherwise, you can sign up and then you can cancel or pause at any one point, as long as you let us know before your next payment. And like tons of people doing that at the moment. You know, I'm going away for December. Can you put my membership on pause? It's like, we don't put a time frame on that. And from a business sense, like, could be a bit more,
for sure,
you know, but like, it's just, it's not about that. Like, and I feel like people really resonate with that as well.
How did you, so, cause I mean, the process of becoming a co-owner of the gym as well, that's not necessarily an easy feat. So you had this connection with someone. Did you approach them? Did they approach you? Because I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there that are considering even purchasing their own gym, or, you know, even if it's not a combat related thing, but just purchasing into a business, it's like a scary ordeal, I imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, I was training there, and obviously very close with my coach and business partner. I think I hit that fork in the road, like we spoke about before, and I was looking into different avenues. Like, to be completely honest, I didn't feel like, you know, I don't have a big name in Muay Thai. Like, I'm not a superstar or anything like that. Like, most people probably don't even know who I am. So I was like, there was that element of self-doubt, because I was like, I don't have the credentials, you know, like, I don't have the experience that all these other guys do. So there was that self-doubt, and I was actually looking, someone I knew had approached me to open like a boxer-sized gym, and we were going to do something like that around the western suburbs or Freo. And I kind of explored that option, got pretty close to pulling the trigger on that. And I'd told my coach about it like months beforehand, and I was sitting on it for maybe 6 months. And then he works full time. He's quite a high level engineer in the mining space. So he's got a full time like career, hectic job, and a family and that sort of thing. So I think eventually he came back to me and he said, look, like, I'm quite time poor, but like, if we team up and we do it together, you can help me grow it. And he's still the mainstay there. You know, it's still his gym. So yeah, it just kind of worked out like that. Like, I wasn't necessarily seeking it. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and then he came to me with the proposal, and yeah, that was, you know, since then we've done a lot, and we've still got a lot more to go. Like, this year was new premises, new gym, and trial and error, and a lot of different things. A lot of things have happened this year, but next year I feel like we're going to really start hitting our strides. And yeah, I'm hoping I can get back to competing as well, because that was the goal for this year, and I was definitely not capable. So yeah, it's interesting. But for people who might be interested in that sort of thing, I'm just a big believer. Like you've just got to put yourself in circumstances where opportunities arise. You know, like if whatever that may be. Like for example, I was a complete novice when I walked into his gym, but I looked at it and I was like, everyone there is amazing. Like all the fighters got really good records. They're all technically so sound. So like I was nowhere near that level, but I was like, that's where I want to be. So I'm going to go join that group of people. And then by extension, things happen.
You're in the right place, and
Yeah.
stay in the right place for long enough, good things can happen.
Yeah. And sometimes if you jump in the deep end, like I was never a Muay Thai coach. Now I do, you know, I've been coaching for like, a year and a half most days. So you jump in the deep end and generally you learn to swim faster.
Yeah.
Or you sink.
Yeah. Well, I guess you believe enough in yourself not to sink.
Yeah, sometimes it's just good to, jump into things head first, and I don't know, there's pros and cons to that. Like there's a lot that I've learnt this year over running this business and being involved, and it's definitely not all rainbows and sunshine, but like what better way to learn than through trial and error, right?
What has been some of the bigger trials with it, or difficulties with trying to get this going? Because you've also had your health issues with your arm not really working. You're jumping into a business, trying to get that to grow. So there's a lot of stuff, other things just going on in life as well. But just with I guess from the business side, what are some of the bigger things that you don't tend to think about until it hits you in the face? You're like, oh shit, we have to deal with this.
I mean, it's the smaller logistics of the gym, just the day-to-day running of it. But like gyms, I guess you don't really see it until you're on the other side of the fence, but like gyms are a very interesting place and atmosphere. Like for a lot of people, that's their outlet. It's their happy place. It's their, so it's like continually trying to provide that service to keep people happy is a big thing. But also there's a lot that comes with it. Like someone said to me actually recently, who's a counsellor / therapist, they were like, they made this point to me, they work FIFO, or they work on the mind as a counsellor, and they say the funny thing is the first person someone usually confides in is their trainer or their training partner. So like I feel like by extension, people come to me with all their personal shit, and then like somehow you become involved in that too, like whatever that may be. It could be small, it could be big, but like. Yeah, it's the difficulty is keeping people happy, and like that's something that you can never do perfectly, but you try your best. And unfortunately, like I think through this process, we've lost a lot of members, and we've gained a lot of members, and we've lost people that I haven't wanted to see go, but for whatever reason they've gone, and then by extension, we've had some incredible new people walk through the door as well. So it's interesting, but it's a very taxing process because you have to be on and you have to be there for people, and it has to be sincere, like it's an interesting place. It's an interesting vibe.
Is it hard not to take that as like a personal, not like a personal attack, but is it hard not to take it personally when someone does leave, because you're like, oh, fuck, like, what did I do wrong? Like, is there something else I could have done? Because, there's a million different reasons why someone will come and go. But, does that take an actual toll on you when that does happen?
A little bit. Like, I've had friends come and go and move to other gyms. And, look, I mean, everyone's got their reason. Sometimes they might, they might just not connect with other people in the gym or whatever it may be. But I don't think we've lost anyone through the quality. It's interesting, like you see friendship groups come through, or people that date and then they break up, and then it's like all that sort of shit.
Yeah, the dating inside,
Yeah, so you see all of that, and then like the ripple effects. But it does hurt a little bit. Like some of my friends have left and gone to other gyms, and I'm a little bit sad about it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like at the end of the day, you know what? like, as I say to them, you've just got to do what's best for yourself. Like, if you prefer their coaching or their timetable is more suitable to you, then, like, no hard feelings.
Yeah. Some small hard feelings, feelings, tiny feelings, but yeah.
A little bit sad.
Yeah. So again, all part of it. Can't necessarily avoid any of that stuff as well. So anything that you do differently, you know, in terms of how long have you been at it now as sort of co-owner or part owner or whatever
It's probably just ticked over a year now. So yeah, anything I do differently? Fuck, a lot of things. Jeez, it's been a lot of
help
trial
us
and
learn
error.
from your mistakes, Sam.
Yeah, I think no, like, there's nothing that I do differently because I've learnt from all of the trials and tribulations of the gym and trying different things. But it's just an interesting thing, right? Like, and that applies to life as well. Like, sometimes on paper it all adds up and, you know, it all makes sense, but then you get there and it just doesn't work. And there's been situations like that. Like, for example, in the gym, I built a room at the back of a gym for like a massage therapist / physio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, sick, because like that's going to help contribute to the rent. And that's perfect. Like, we can help build his business. He can service all our members. Like, and then, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 months in, he ended up wanting to go. And I was like, fuck, you know, because there goes a portion of the rent. We were still growing as a gym. And it was stressful, but then it's ended up being a blessing in disguise because now we're so busy, we need the extra space. So it's like, you know, all these things, yeah, it's a process of trial and error. There's some things I probably would have done differently, but I think at the end of the day, like, you learn more from your mistakes.
100%.
So that's, you know, yeah, I'm excited for next year. I'm really G'd up and I think we're going to have a good year next year.
Are you going to take any time off over the Christmas periods? What, is the gym closed at all, or are you guys just powering through?
Yeah, no, the gym will close for Christmas, but, you know, there's a few of the team who have fights coming up, and some of them are just crazies and they just love training every day anyway. So I'm kind of back in that stage. Like, I'm, you know, training twice a day, and we'll continue to do so over that period. So we'll see. One of my teammates has got a massive fight in January in Bangkok on a very, very big promotion. So I was speaking to him the other night and he's pretty much got to start his fight camp now. So no rest for the wicked.
Damn, yeah.
But commercially we'll shut down. But yeah, I think myself and a few others, this guy in particular, will all be training.
What are you doing as well outside of, so you're training, you're back into training now, you train twice a day.
Yeah.
You're also now running a business, there's a lot of stuff going on. What things are you doing though in terms of general health? Because I know you've mentioned you're big on breath work. I believe you've done some sort of meditative practices in the past or may continue to do so. You've obviously, you have to do sauna for things like cuts, but are you doing other like specific health things to try and keep your body in check and like raring to go?
Yeah, particularly in the last few months now that I'm kind of getting myself right. But yeah, I do. So I mean, I do strength and con. I'm fortunate to train with my friend Alex, who is just an absolute physical specimen, and he was the one who was the world heavyweight champion. So he's essentially taken me under his wing, and he's giving me strength and con and rehab every day. Then I do the Muay Thai at night after I coach, and then outside of that, I'm just very big on recovery. Ice baths, saunas, stretching, foam rolling. I love everything, man. Like the sensory deprivation tanks, the hyperbaric chambers. Like, I'm into it all. You know, massage, cupping, needling.
Which you'll be shooting off to after here, actually.
Yes. I found a new massage therapist. She's been really, really good. But yeah, I just try and do it as like a holistic approach. And for me, actually, one of the biggest things has been diet. Okay. Because like naturally when you're in fight camp, you have to be super strict. Now I'm trying to bulk up, trying to put a little bit of muscle on these skin and bones, trying to make my baguette arms a little bit thicker.
I would never say such a thing given your credentials.
No, I'm a skinny man. Yeah, so diet and sleep have actually been like the two things that I've been working on a lot over the last few months, and to see the impact of them in terms of recovery and performance and everything else has been huge.
What would have been sort of some of the top takeaways for you in terms of, I guess, your nutrition and sleep?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a sweet tooth. Like, I love to eat dirty, and I love fast food, and I love,
A little pud?
yeah, love it. I had a bit of that skinny fat dad bod going on before I got back into training. I had the little beer belly, but just like the simple things, man. Hydration, like drinking enough water each day. Like, it's all the silly things that your parents tell you when you're a kid, you know. But drinking enough water each day, like in particular, like rehydrating properly if you have a sauna or you train, like amino acids, electrolytes, those sorts of things. And then, just the difference that good food makes. And I think it's interesting, like when you're eating shit, you crave shit food. And when you're eating clean, like you just want to eat clean food. So I'm just eating a lot and just trying to stay on top of it all.
Do you try and specifically go for anything like, do you try and go for organic, or is it like, as long as it's sort of fresh and you're just trying to cook a lot, or?
Try and eat clean, but I'm not too worried. Like, I'm not too snobby about it, but I do if I'm consuming meat, like I like to get good quality meat.
Yeah. We as Butcher, I'm going to give a shout out where we get all our meat. So nice. Good, dude.
Yeah, we love a good butcher. So if it's fish or meat or whatever it is, I'll try and get good sourcing. And then otherwise, vegetables, I mean, I've turned into a bit of like a white Thai. I just eat rice every day. I had a Thai live with me for like 6 months, and he taught me how to cook a few dishes, and he taught me how to cook good rice. And ever since I've done that, it's just become like a staple, bro. That, and then I add whatever I want to it.
What am I doing wrong with my rice?
There's a little bit of seasoning in there, a little bit of, like, do it in the rice cooker, a bit of salt and pepper, and then there's a few naughty little sauces you add in. I think there's a bit of MSG and stuff in there. Just a splash. Just a splash.
Just a little dab. Okay.
But yeah, just stuff like that. Good meats, good carbs, refueling. I was terrible at that beforehand. I really struggled, like, with my diet, because you train late, and then you're not hungry because you've just trained so hard. So, like, I wouldn't eat dinner till fucking like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And then you struggle to sleep because you're still digesting it. And then you wake up in the morning and you've had a shit sleep and you're tired, and it's a vicious cycle. So just all those things.
Then you crave more shit food again. So
yeah. I was a coffee addict, still am a little bit. But yeah, just little things like that. Good nutrients, dude, lots of water.
I've had to give up coffee.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's so shit. I love coffee.
Yeah.
But for me, at least, it's just causing havoc on my gut.
Really?
As soon as I have coffee, like the classic, everyone who got, like you have coffee, go poop, whatever.
Got that bubble gut.
You got that. It's like, for me, it's like caffeine touches. I have like 30 seconds. It's like I'm in there. But then it makes my gut just terrible for the next.
Really?
Like few hours.
Yeah.
So I'm just having, like, it's terrible. I gave it up for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I was like, all right, we'll just see how it goes. Got back into it. Nah.
Is it the milk, or you drink it straight, or?
I've tried to do both, so I thought it might be, because I actually do get a little tongue reaction to whey protein. So sometimes, not every time, but if I have a bunch of whey, half my tongue will swell up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and I started using a protein powder called Mirabuka. Shout out, great protein powder, but it's a shame that I'm allergic to whey. They just have no shit, so it's from the farm down in Mirabuka.
Nice.
And it has literally no flavorings, no preservatives. It's purely just whey, and if you want to add a flavor, it'll be like a natural flavor and a stevia, or you can have it as just the whey, nothing. It's just unflavored. So found that out, and then I was like, all right, well, maybe the coffee and the milk. It's the milk and the coffee causing the issue. Just the black coffee, same deal.
Straight coffee's rough though on the gut, but like, that sucks. I quit coffee. I think I did like a month or 6 weeks, and it fucking sucked.
It's
and the withdrawal.
Did you get a withdrawal? Yeah, dude. I had 2 to 3 day migraine withdrawals,
and that brain fog and everything else.
To be fair though, as soon as I stopped, like after that hump, so we'll give it a week. But so after that, at least 3-4 days, but we'll say a week after, I was waking up
Yeah.
Morning time, like my wake up time was like on point. There was no more sleeping in, feeling groggy. I was surprised by that. That was my alarm that goes up at 5:15, so I get down to the gym. I was up at 4:50, like every morning, like well before the
Ready
alarm.
to
Like,
go.
it's like holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Coffee's got like a fucking 12-hour half-life.
Yep.
That's the thing. So it's like, yeah, that's interesting. I noticed that too. Like,
You did?
yeah, after that initial period, like,
Yeah.
I felt I had a lot more clarity and my energy was a lot more consistent. Like, you don't have the dumps, the highs and the lows, but
It turns out, because I started looking into it, because like, why am I getting, like, what are these withdrawal symptoms? Because it was the exact same feeling that I get when I'm really hungover.
yeah,
So if I'm really hungover, it's the exact same. Like, I get this bad pain at the back right-hand side of my neck, just below my head there. But then it's just this pulsating, like, migraine that pill, like Nurofen, no anti-inflammatories, nothing will touch the sides and do anything for it. So it's purely just this thing that I can't do anything for. It's sometimes a tension thing. Sometimes I can get some physio on it. It kind of helps a little bit, but it's just there. And it does feel like there's a blood pressure related component. And as I was looking into the coffee, and it has an effect on, like, I think it's called like adenosine. And what that ends up doing is it constricts the blood vessels around the brain. So when you're intaking coffee, something happens to constrict the blood vessels around the brain and reduce them by, it's like 30 or 40%. So then when you finally come off caffeine and you're not getting this adenosine hit, the blood vessels are slowly trying to return back out. And so them returning that 30 or 40% is like this increase of like pulsating pressure.
Wow.
So at least this is my understanding of it at the moment. So I was like, during my withdrawals, my blood vessels are like trying to figure out how to deal with the pressure or re-expand or something. So for me, it kind of made sense. I was like, I feel a little bit more alert, a little bit less groggy. Like anything, when you're not having coffee, you don't feel like you need coffee, right? But
Exactly.
You take it away and it's all good. But having said that, still love the smell. Like, you have it, you look a good coffee, like,
First thing in the morning, like, it's a beautiful thing to start your day. You're just gonna have to become like an English breakfast type operator.
yeah. Look, I was smashing teas. Peppermint tea is just now for me a bit of an OG, and I'm gonna have to just go for that, because there was the easiest way to start work in the morning. Like, if you've got to do stuff on the computer, is just kettle, coffee, computer.
Yeah.
I don't do anything else. I mean, I love to exercise in the morning, but if I've got shit to do, it's like just wake up at 5, get on the computer. You've got 3, whatever hours. No one's going to interrupt you. Nothing's going to happen. But that coffee helps.
Yeah, bro.
Getting you into that zone, it really does help.
I'll hook you up some tea. I've got some, like, I really like my tea as well. Like, green tea's got a lot of caffeine in it.
It does, yeah. That's why I hit up at the moment, mostly Robosch and peppermint.
Nice. I've got this other one. It's like a fermented Chinese tea. It's kind of like a wine. It's like aged 5, 10, 20 years. You have to rinse it, but it's fuck, man. You have.
I'm interested.
Yeah. I'll hook you up. There might be a tiny bit of caffeine in it. I don't think there's any at all, but it's a couple of cups of that, and you are zinging.
Well, that's the thing. I'm hopeful that I can still have a little bit of like caffeine, but that maybe there's some other component within coffee. I'm probably just scratching here, but I don't know. I still don't know if it's the actual caffeine or if it's just like the acidity of the coffee or something.
It's very acidic, right?
So I'm like, maybe it's a little bit to do with that. But for me, it does feel like that clearly there's like a drug signal. It hits my stomach, and this drug is just like released into my system, and it's like, all right, everyone,
let's go.
Like, kick everything into overdrive. Let's activate brain, whatever. It's just, God, I do miss it though. Anyway, maybe a weekend jobby every now and then with a pastry.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, the occasional.
Bro, stomach bacteria and health is so important.
Yeah, that one I'm finding out a lot.
It's crazy.
Because I got a little bit of like psoriasis, so that'll come and go on my face at the moment. So I know I get like a dermatitis thing, which is meant to be like, there's like yeast on your skin cells, right? And so they're essentially feeding on it, and there's like an autoimmune process going on that's trying to grow out skin cells, but then they're being eaten away by this yeast or something. So a lot of people get it. It's not dissimilar to psoriasis, but slightly a different version or variety. A lot of it supposedly all comes from the gut. So now I'm on this like gut protocol to try and figure it out, which, by the way, if you don't know what's going on with your gut, highly recommend go get a massive blood test. So you can get a blood panel, gene test, and microbiome test. There's a group called like iScreen that I use.
Nice.
So it's a private company, so you don't need to go to a GP because
that's good.
Unfortunately, a GP can't give you all the tests without justification. Otherwise, the insurance companies will not allow it, and then they'll strip the GP of their Medicare rights for a period of time as like punishment. So you can't just get like a full screen if you're a healthy person.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you would want, in my opinion, because you want a baseline for your life. But yeah, you can go do that at a group called iScreen. It's a bit expensive, but at least you can do it once, have a check of everything that's going on, and then you can get that info back. You can either take that to a naturopath or someone if you really want to, or not saying this is, and this is definitely not medical advice, or you can download all that information, convert it into, well, it will already be in a PDF, upload that into ChatGPT, ask it to analyze it, and then provide you with possible protocols that may assist with it. And then it will give you a printout of that, and then you can go onto a group called iHerb. iHerb has all the supplements. You can order what you need to, give it a go, redo your blood tests in 3 to 6 months' time, see if you made an effect.
That was very impressive. That was very smart. So you're a salesman.
Well, as in, that's just generally what I actually think is super.
I mean, that's a good way to go about it.
So that's what we've gone. That like I just think, for me at least, I'm having to fucking deal with stuff, and like it doesn't seem like you get all the answers that you need to wherever you go, because everyone's just got limited time. You talk to a GP or a specialist, you've got 10 to 30 minutes if you're lucky, and you just never feel like you ever quite get the information that you're after. So I feel like at least this way you give yourself so much more knowledge about yourself that you can then do something with.
It's important to do that research and stuff. Dude, I'm a huge proponent for that. Like, not to say that I'm not a believer in Western medicine, I am. But, yeah, I think, like, going to see a GP, like, it always seems like they always just give you a Band-Aid for whatever it may be, and, like, they never address the underlying issues. And it's really important. I mean, especially as we get older, you know, we're not spring chickens anymore, although we like to think so.
Yeah,
Could be,
mate.
Could be. But like, you notice those things, like fucking stomach health and like
it matters.
Mobility. It matters a lot.
Yeah.
Sleep, like, you know, maybe that's just part of getting older and hopefully a little bit more mature. But yeah, it's the little things count. Those little 1%ers, they really, really do make a difference.
For me, the health side of things has always been like always a place where it's worthwhile investing, because it just feels like there's a compounding interest to your health. Where if you get on track with like poor health, you know, down the line you can get away with things like that for a while, but just down the line you just start to see people having to deal with those effects that if you dealt with earlier on, you know, wouldn't have been such an issue, and now people are just having to suffer through whatever it is that they're managing at that point in time. And you look at anyone, you know, most of the people that I like look up to look after themselves and their health, and they tend to like look better. They just seem to have more energy. There's just so many reasons why trying your best to look after. Like I really do believe in the whole, you know, there's only a few things that people typically care about, and it's health, wealth, and relationships.
Sure. Like
between those three things, the only thing that ever matters if you're sick, though, is your health.
That's it.
You know, whenever you don't have money, wealth is the only thing that matters. And if someone's died or a relationship's gone awry, then obviously that's the only thing that matters. So, like, you just don't want to hopefully get to that point where health is the only thing that matters to you, because at that point it could be too late.
Very debilitating. I don't always practice what I preach, but I'm a firm believer in trying to be proactive rather than reactive.
Well, I think we all have a budget of hypocrisy. I think we all get a little budget of hypocrisy.
It sounds good when it rolls off the tongue. You know?
It's like, you know, as a physio, there's plenty that I could be doing to further my own causes. But you know, if you're doing that 90% of the work, I think you're allowed a bit of a 10% slip here and there.
Gotta let your hair down here and there.
You'd hope so. Otherwise, well, at least, you know, if you're David Goggins, maybe not.
Jesus, yeah.
Always wondered if that dude actually just has a beer sometimes.
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? I'm sure. People are funny. People have got their outlets, and it's people are strange, man.
Man, people are interesting. Very
They are
interesting.
very interesting.
So what do you, like, you're saying that next year you're really keen to get back into the ring,
Yes.
ideally.
Yes.
You're wanting to continue with growing the business. What do you sort of see? Do you have a bit of is there a 5-year plan? Like, are you someone that does look long term? Are you more of you get in there and just see what happens after a year's time? Like, do you have a bit of a plan, I guess, coming forward?
Yeah, I do. I like to think that I'm a pretty deep thinker, and I can't help but always try and look 2-3 steps ahead. So yeah, sure. Like, I think you always like to have a concept, an idea of where you want to be in 5 years and 18 months and 1 year. I think it's important to have that kind of guideline for yourself. But in saying that, like, life moves so quickly and things change so drastically. I feel like sometimes, you can set yourself a goal, for example, for 5 years' time, but then you might get there and it's like, people change, and your outlooks change, and your perspective's constantly changing. So I do have kind of concepts and ideas of where I want to be in 5 years and what I want, but I'm at the moment coming through the rehab and the recovery. I'm very much trying to just, like, as corny as it is, just remain present, and I think that's a really hard skill in itself, is remaining present. But I'm just trying to win as much as I can every day. It's almost like I'm a fucking reformed drug addict or something, like day by day, win the day. But like, yeah, I'm literally just doing that at the moment. And yeah, I've got some big plans for next year. I think that's going to be a big one, personally, and for the gym. But we'll see. Sometimes things just pop up and you get taken in a different direction, and I'm very much I try to be very open. I'm not opposed to change. Like,
Not super rigid.
Try not to be. But yeah, hopefully for me personally next year, I'm going to make up for some lost time and get some fights, and then hopefully in the next 2 years I can go for a title. And then after that, I'll probably take a step back and just coach and run the gym. And who knows, I might go into another form of business. I might look to get back into a career. Like, we'll see.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Is there any fighters you want to shout out that we should be sort of trying to pay attention to, that you think are really rising through or going to do big things in Australian Muay Thai?
Yes. Well, I'm biased because some of them are from my own gym. But I mean,
first one, Sam Clements.
No. So, one of the boys who I'm going to go cut weight with tomorrow, Jonty Turner from my gym. He's started from scratch. He's had 6 fights this year. He lost his first 2, and he's on a 4-fight win streak. So he's fighting this weekend. He's a little star to watch.
So where can you go to, like, watch these fights? Like, is it?
They're pretty low end television, to be honest with you. There's streams and stuff, but give us a follow on Instagram, GTG Muay Thai. We get a bit of footage up there and a fair bit of content.
But people can go down to the gym to watch
come
it?
Down. Just on Instagram. But anyone's welcome to come down to the gym and train. Doors open for everyone. But yeah, the bigger ones. I'll shout out 3 people. So 2 of them are my teammates, and one of them's someone who's been really helping and mentoring me over the last couple of months. So I'll shout him out first. That's Alex Roberts. He was the former WBC heavyweight champion. He fought in 1 earlier this year, tore his hamstring off the bone. So he's been rehabbing and recovering that. He's a monster of a man. He's going to come back, I think, next year and keep going, go win that world title back, I think, is his objection. His partner, Fawn Piggott, who is a bit of a poster girl for Australian female Muay Thai.
She's the 14-0.
14-0, gold medalist at the World Games earlier this year. She's at that interesting point where it's like, how far do you want to take it? Because she's, capable to be a world champion and a national champion, but she works full time, and those two, you know, they're recently engaged. So it'll be interesting to see where her career goes. But I'm a super fan of her. And then my other teammate, Vinny Wikitora. I always mispronounce his last name. Monster of a man, the most beautiful, handsome man you've ever seen. And he's just a freak, man. Like, genetically, athletically, nicest, most humble dude. He went to New York a few months ago and fought for the international title. He came up a bit short. He got crook when he went over there. Very early in his career, though, like, it was a big jump up. So him, it's going to be a big year for him next year. Watch those guys. But yeah, tap into one. I reckon you'll enjoy it.
All right, so follow one, GTG as well, just to follow along for some of those fighters or fights that might be coming up.
Yes, sir.
And last one, sort of just to finish off, I like to ask people this one, which is, it's a two-part question. The first being, 5 years ago, Sam Clements was in a different place, different headspace. Is there any advice that you'd want to give to yourself 5 years ago? That's part one.
Oh, that's a good question. Advice, I'm not sure, but I think I am a proponent and a victim of self-sabotage at the best of times. So I would look to tap into that a little bit earlier and try and help myself a bit more.
Very nice. And then now the second part to it is, imagine yourself 5 years in the future.
Yes.
What would your 5-year self in the future be giving advice to yourself right now for?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it would be to remain present and just try and do everything to the best of your ability and leave no stone unturned. I think that, that would be the main thing, because we don't know where we're going to end up, but at the end of the day, I guess you really just want to know that you've given things in life a good crack, right? You don't want to have any regrets. So sometimes I think we all feel, me personally, I fall victim to like deep reflection or worrying about the future, whereas we only have control of the present moment, right? So I'm very much trying to practice that mindfulness and remaining present and try not to miss any moments or opportunities.
Very cool. Well, I'm pretty happy to end it there.
Thank you, bro.
This time.
Thank you for having me.
Very looking forward to seeing you, what happens next year. Wish you all the best for the recovery. Appreciate you taking the time to sharing a little bit about what you've been doing over this past little bit. And as I said, you might see me down at GTG.
Well, come down. We'll look after you and I'll get you some tickets. If I fight in Perth again, I'll get you some tickets.
Down for it, man. I'll be there. Appreciate it, everyone. Cheers.